So in this lecture on quantum mechanics, we are going to discuss what is the de Broglie's hypothesis of matter waves, then Bohr's postulates and the de Broglie's hypothesis, then what is the Davison-Germer experiment, then properties of matter waves, and the concept of phase velocity and group velocity, and the physical significance of the wave function psi and mod of psi square, which is also known as Born interpretation. So these are the topics which we are going to cover in the very first chapter of this quantum mechanics. So in this unit, that is quantum mechanics, again you have two chapters. One is wave particle duality and the other one is the wave equation. So these two chapters are just the introduction to the topic which is called as the quantum mechanics. Now why this topic came into existence, that is why this quantum mechanics came into existence, because there were two, you can say that there are two era in physics. The physics which is developed prior to the 1900, that physics is called as the classical physics. It is called as a classical physics, or it is called as a Newtonian physics. So the physics which is developed by scientists roughly from 1600 to 1900, this physics is basically called as a classical physics, and it was believed at that time, that is up to the 19th century, it was believed that whatever the physics which has been developed, all that physics has been able to explain everything, every physical phenomena which exist in nature. So this physics is called as the classical physics. But on the other hand, there were few physical phenomena which exist in physics after 1900, and those physical phenomena cannot be explained by use of this classical physics, and therefore there was a need for another kind of physics, and that physics is called as the quantum physics. Now what are those physical phenomena that we'll see? So there were physical phenomena which cannot be explained by the concepts of classical physics. For explanation of those physical phenomena, we require another kind of physics, and that physics is called as the quantum physics. Now why this quantum physics, or what are those physical phenomena which cannot be explained by the classical physics? Now it all started with the one notion that that our universe, it is mostly made up of matter and radiation. If you look at the entire universe, either there is a matter, it is composed of matter, or it is composed of radiation. So the different stars, they give out the radiation, and different planets which are present, that you can call it as the matter. So the whole or entire universe is made up of matter and radiation, and we know something about radiation. So this radiation, we have studied the phenomena such as interference of light, we have studied the phenomena such as diffraction of light, we have studied the physical phenomena such as polarization of light. And undergoing all these physical phenomena, what is interference of light? It is the superposition of two or more light waves. So when the superposition of two or more light waves takes place in such a way that if the path difference between the two interfering light waves, if it is integral multiple of wavelength, then they will interfere constructively. If the path difference between the two interfering waves, if it is odd integral multiple of half the wavelength, then they will interfere destructively. So interference is nothing but it is the phenomena of superposition of two or more waves. Diffraction is again the superposition of two or more waves which are originating from different parts of the same incident wavefront. While polarization of light, it proves that light has transverse wave nature. It means that these physical phenomena, that is interference of light, diffraction of light, and polarization of light, it proves the wave nature associated with the light. On the other hand, there were certain physical phenomena which were not studied till this period, that is up to 19th century. So after 19th century, there were physical phenomena which came into existence, such as the photoelectric effect, Compton effect, and the black body radiation. So these physical phenomena, photoelectric effect, Compton effect, and black body radiation, you might have studied this black body radiation and the photoelectric effect in 12th standard. So black body is something like a spherical hollow body, and there is only one cavity in this black body, and the inner surface of this black body is coated with either lamp black or platinum black, which is 99% black, and there is one projection or mirror over here. So when light enters into this black body, it gets reflected from this projector, and it suffers multiple reflections only inside the black body, and it gets totally internally absorbed by this black body. So whatever be the radiation which is incident onto this black body, it will absorb all these radiations. So this kind of body is called as a black body. Almost 99.9% of light which is incident onto it, all of this light is absorbed by the black body. Isn't it? Have you studied the black body?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So when this black body was heated again, then it emits out the radiation which it has absorbed initially, and whatever be the amount of light which is absorbed by this black body, when this black body is heated back again, it should radiate this emission back. And the emissivity of this black body was studied by two scientists whose name were Luhmer and Pringsheim, and they observed the spectra of black body radiation, and they observed this emissivity of this black body. This emissive E is the emissivity of the black body, or say E lambda is the emissivity of the black body, and with the effect of temperature, they observe that by increasing the temperature, if this is my T1, T2, T3 and so on, the emissivity of black body increases as I keep on increasing the temperature of the black body, and the peak of this radiation, it will shift towards the lower wavelength side. The peak of this will shift towards the shorter wavelength side. So this is the spectra of black body radiation which was observed by two scientists, Luhmer and Pringsheim. But this spectra of black body was not been able to be explained on the basis of this classical physics. So this classical physics could not explain this emissivity curve of black body radiation. Many scientists, they tried to explain this complete curve of black body radiation, but no one was successful. Even Einstein made an attempt to explain the spectra of black body radiation, but he was also not able to be successful in order to explain the black body radiation. Some scientists were able to explain only the curve towards shorter wavelength region, while some scientists, they were been successful in explaining only the part of the curve towards the higher wavelength region. So some scientists could explain only this part of the characteristic curve, some scientists could explain only this part of the characteristic curve, but no one was able to explain the entire characteristic curve, why it is so. Then by any means, there was a scientist whose name was Planck. Now you well known about this Planck quantum hypothesis. So Max Planck was the name of scientist. He somehow imagined that the atoms of this black body, they behave like the atomic oscillators. So there is a regular periodic arrangement of these atoms, and when these regular periodic arrangement of atoms, when they absorb the photon, they vibrate about their mean position. So this atom will vibrate about their mean position, and again it will gives out a photon due to this vibration. So he came up with the concept of a photon, where this photon, according to him, is the particle of light, and the energy associated with this photon, according to Max Planck, is E is equal to h nu. So he proposed that the light behaves like a particle, and that particle of light is called as photon, and the energy associated with this photon is E is equal to h nu, where this h is Planck's constant, which is 6.63 into 10 raised to power minus 34 joules, and nu is the frequency of this photon. By introducing this concept of photon, he was able to explain the entire characteristic curve of this black body radiation, and then he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics for putting forward this concept of photon. So this black body radiation cannot be explained by considering that light has wave nature, but this black body radiation can be explained only by introducing the concept of photon, that is, light behaves like a particle, and it can be explained. Similarly, this photoelectric effect, it cannot be explained on the basis of wave theory of light. So you might be knowing about this photoelectric effect. When ultraviolet light is incident on a metal plate, usually it is a zinc plate, in vacuum. It was this was discovered by Hertz and Thomson, but the explanation of this photoelectric effect was given by Einstein, and Einstein received the Nobel Prize in Physics for this explanation of photoelectric effect. So what is this photoelectric effect? This is the cathode, which is a metal plate. Basically it is a zinc plate, and this is a glass tube, which is a vacuum chamber. This is the anode, to which we provide the potential difference. We measure the current which can pass through it. Now when light is incident onto this zinc plate, it is observed that it ejects out the electrons from the metal plate, and when it ejects out the electrons from the metal plate, these ejected electrons, they will travel up to the collecting plate, which is the anode, and when these electrons reaches to the anode, then the circuit gets completed. So the current will flow through the ammeter, and we can measure this current. Such current is called as a photocurrent. So this is the photoelectric effect. This is the very basic photoelectric effect. When light is incident on the zinc plate, it ejects out the electrons. These electrons, they reach up to the collecting plate, and as soon as the electrons reaches the collecting plate, it completes the circuit. So the current will flow in the circuit. So this current is due to the incident of light energy onto the zinc plate, and therefore such current is called as a photocurrent. Such current is called as photocurrent, because this current is produced due to the incident of light energy. Now the electric field E of light, which exerts a force F, which is equal to minus E into capital E, where where this small e is the charge of the electron and capital E is the electric potential. So as the intensity of light increases, the force increases, and therefore the kinetic energy of ejected electron, it should also increase. So electron should be emitted whatever be the frequency nu of the light, so long as E is sufficiently large. So it is observed initially that if the intensity of light is high enough, then the current which flows through the circuit, which flows through this ammeter, that is the photocurrent, it is expected that this photocurrent should increase. So if I say that this I is the photocurrent, then by increasing the intensity of light, it is expected that this photocurrent will also increase, and it is independent of frequency of the incident light. There is no effect of frequency, it is expected. So as long as the intensity is high enough or sufficient enough, the current, that is the photocurrent which flows through the circuit, that should increase. This is expected. But it is observed that, on the other hand, it is observed that for very low intensities, then it is the another thing which is expected, that at low intensities there should be a time lag between the light exposure and the emission, uh, while the electron absorb enough energy to escape from the material. So if you decrease the intensity, if you decrease the intensity of light, it is expected that these electrons which are present on the metal plate of zinc, these electrons will take more time to absorb this energy if the intensity of light is decreased, and therefore the electrons will not be ejected immediately. There will be a time lag between the incident light and the ejection of electrons. So this was the expected things. So these were just the classical expectations, because at that time no quantum physics was evolved. So these concepts were basically the concepts from classical physics. So classical physics predicts that if intensity is more, current should be more. The ejection of electrons is independent of the frequency of light. Whatever be the frequency of light, it doesn't matter. While if you decrease the intensity of light, then there should be a time lag between the ejected electrons and the incident light. So these electrons will absorb enough energy, so that these electrons should absorb enough energy so that they can escape through the material. So these were the expectations, and these were just the classical expectations. But on the other hand, the experimental results were all, while on the other hand, the experimental results, actual results, it shows that the maximum kinetic energy of the ejected electrons, it is independent of intensity of the incident light, which was predicted by the classical physics. So here the maximum kinetic energy of the ejected electrons, it is independent of intensity of light, but it depends upon the frequency of light. So here it seems to be new, V, but this is new. So instead of intensity, there is a dependence of kinetic energy of the ejected electrons on the frequency of the incident light. So if the frequency of incident light is less than a particular frequency called as threshold frequency, then the ejection of electrons is not possible. So this is observed that if the frequency of the incident radiation, if it is less than a particular frequency, nu zero, called as threshold frequency or called as a cutoff frequency, so no electrons are emitted. It means that this is a frequency dependent phenomena and not the intensity dependent phenomena. It is independent of intensity of light, while it depends completely on the frequency of light, and there is no time lag. However, rate of ejection of electrons depends on the light intensity. So there is no time lag between the ejection of electrons and the incidence of light. According to classical physics, it was expected that if the intensity of the incident radiation is less, then it will require about 8 to 10 days to eject out the electrons from the metal plate up to the collecting plate. So it requires about 8 to 10 days so that electrons are ejected from the zinc plate to the collecting plate. But on the other hand, this is not the case. Even if the intensity is less, but if the frequency is more than the threshold frequency, which is nu zero, or cutoff frequency, which is nu zero, ejection of electrons happens immediately. As soon as the light is incident with frequency nu greater than nu zero, immediately electrons are ejected out from the cathode and reach up to the collecting plate. So these are the contradictory things which are the actual results which observe, and they are not in match with the classical expectations. So this classical theory of physics, it could not explain the photoelectric effect, and Einstein explained it by using the concept of using the Planck's quantum hypothesis. So he assumed that light comes in the packets of energy called as photons, having energy as E is equal to h nu. So an electron absorbs a single photon to leave the material. So according to Einstein, the maximum kinetic energy of the emitted electron is K max or Ke max is equal to h nu minus W, where this h nu is the where this h is the Planck's constant. It is 6.63 into 10 raised to power minus 34 joule second, and nu is the frequency of the photon, and this W is the work function. So it is the minimum energy which is needed for the electron to escape from the metal, and it depends upon the material, and it is usually between 2 to 5 electron volt. So this W is the work energy, and it is equal to h nu 0, you may say, where this nu 0 is the minimum frequency or the cutoff frequency. So h into nu 0 is nothing but it is the work function. So this, you can write this equation again as h nu minus h nu 0. So this h nu 0 will refer to the work function. So it is the minimum energy which is needed for the ejection of electrons from the zinc plate. So by using this equation, Einstein was able to explain this working of photoelectric effect completely. So for this explanation, he need to assume that energy associated with the photon is equal to h nu. So according to Einstein, when light is incident in the form of photon, so the electron which is present on the metal plate, a single electron will absorb a single photon which is incident onto it, having energy which is E is equal to h nu. This E is equal to h nu is the energy of the incident photon. So when this electron absorbs the incident photon, having energy which is h nu minus h nu 0, where this h nu 0 is the work function, where this h nu 0 is the minimum energy which is required to knock off this electron from the metal plate. So if the energy of the incident photon is greater than this h nu 0, such that E is equal to h nu minus h nu 0, then the electron will be ejected out from the metal plate. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
If, see, let me clear all this. Here, this is a first of all, it is classical physics says that it is the intensity dependent phenomena. So if the intensity of light is more, the ejection of electrons is more. This was predicted by classical physics. Similarly, if you decrease the intensity, then it is expected that there should be a time lag between the ejection of electrons and the incidence of light. But both these things were not observed at all, and it is observed on the other hand that this is a frequency dependent phenomena and not the intensity dependent phenomena. So if the frequency of light is less than a particular frequency called nu 0, if the frequency of incident light nu, if it is less than nu 0, then the ejection of electron is not possible. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
But the ejection of electrons is
Yes, sir.
possible only when the frequency of incident light is greater than the frequency which is the cutoff frequency. So if my frequency of incident light, if it is greater than nu 0, then only ejection of electron is possible from the metal plate. तभी यहाँ से electron ये emit होगा. So what Einstein proposed is that light consists of a particle called as photon. So when a photon is incident onto this electron, ये photon की energy कितनी होनी चाहिए? What energy should this
nu.
photon
H nu.
have?
E is equal to h nu.
E is equal to h nu. But the energy of this photon should be such that it should be more than this frequency. The frequency of the incident photon should be more than this frequency, which is h nu 0, isn't it? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So if this nu 0 is the threshold frequency or cutoff frequency, then h multiplied by nu 0 will be called as the work function. This h nu 0 is called as work function. It is the amount of work which I have to overcome in order that this electron should be ejected, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this if I incident the frequency of the if the frequency of the incident photon is such that if it is greater than nu zero, then the maximum then this electron which is ejected out from the metal plate, it will have the maximum kinetic energy, and the maximum kinetic energy of such an ejected electron will be equal to h nu, where h nu is the energy of the incident photon, minus h nu 0. Why minus h nu 0? Because this energy has to overcome this work function. It is something like a PN junction diode, in which the applied forward bias has to overcome the barrier potential. Then only the forward current flows in the circuit. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the ejection of electrons can be explained by this equation. It is a very famous equation by Einstein, that maximum kinetic energy is equal to h nu minus h nu 0, or h nu minus w, where this w is called as the work function. So he can explain the working of this photoelectric effect by using this equation, and for this equation he need to assume that energy associated with photon is h nu, and he has to believe that light should consist of particle nature called as a photon. Similarly, there is one more experiment called as Compton effect. Since these three physical phenomena are not in much detail for your syllabus, so I am not going to discuss this, but this is also one of the physical phenomena, and it is with the help of this physical phenomena is for the scattering of X-rays, and Compton is the name of scientist. In order to discover this phenomena, he also received Nobel Prize in Physics, and in order to explain this Compton scattering, also we require that light should behave like a particle. So this these three physical phenomena, that is the photoelectric effect, Compton effect, and the blackbody radiation, we cannot explain these three physical phenomena by using either the wave theory of light or by using the classical physics. So the classical physics cannot explain these three physical phenomena, that is photoelectric effect, Compton effect, and blackbody radiation. Similarly, the wave theory of light cannot explain the photoelectric effect, Compton effect, and blackbody radiation. Now this particle nature, it cannot explain the interference of light. The particle nature of light cannot explain the diffraction of light. The particle nature of light, it cannot explain the polarization of light. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Can you
Yes, sir.
explain
Yes,
the
Yes, sir.
can you explain the phenomena such as interference of light by using two photons, that there are two photons and they interfere with each other to produce the interference pattern which consists of alternate dark and bright bands on the screen? No, you cannot use the concept of photon. You cannot use this concept of photon, that is the particle nature of light, to explain this to explain this phenomena such as interference. You cannot use this concept of photon to explain the phenomena that is diffraction of light. You cannot use this concept of photon to explain the polarization of light, because here there is superposition of two or more waves. So when two or more waves they superpose on each other, they gives rise to the phenomena called as interference of light. Now tell me, can two particles be at the same position at the same instant of time? If these are the two particles, if I name this as particle A, if I name this as particle B, can these two particles be at the same position at the same instant of time? Will they occupy the same position?
No, sir.
No, they can be
No,
very,
sir.
they can be very close enough, they can even touch each other, but they cannot occupy the same position at the same instant of time. What about the waves? Here two or more waves, they can occupy same position at the same instant of time. So this is one wave, and when it is superposed by another wave, it can be superposed by third wave, it can be superposed by fourth wave, and so on. So two or more waves, they can superpose on each other. So two or more waves, they can be present at the same instant of time. They can be present at the same position at the same instant of time, but the two particles, they cannot occupy the same position at the same instant of time. So but are these are the physical phenomena which is related to light, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
That
Yes,
is
sir.
interference, diffraction and polarization. These are the physical phenomena which are associated with light. Are these physical phenomena associated with light? Is it so that the photoelectric effect, Compton effect and blackbody radiation, they are associated with light?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir.
Here in blackbody radiation, we incident the light which is absorbed by the blackbody. When it is heated, then again it radiates the energy. In Compton effect, it is with the X-rays, scattering of X-rays. In photoelectric effect, it is again when light is incident, it ejects out the photoelectrons. So these are also the physical phenomena shown by light. These are also the physical phenomena shown by light. We cannot explain these three physical phenomena, that is photoelectric effect, Compton effect and blackbody radiation, by using the wave nature of light. We cannot explain interference, diffraction and polarization by using the particle nature of light, that is photon. And therefore we say that this light has something which is different nature, called as a dual nature. So it is called as dual nature of light, and it is called as wave particle duality. This nature of light is called as wave particle duality. Means we say that light has both the natures. Light has wave nature as well as light has particle nature. So you may say that these are the two sides of a single coin, that is wave nature and particle nature. They are the two sides of a single coin. So when you toss a coin, only one side will appear to you. It doesn't mean that the other side is not present. So what I am saying by making this statement, that when you need to explain the phenomena of interference, you need to believe that light has the wave nature. You cannot explain it by using the concept of photon. When there is a photoelectric effect, you cannot explain it by using the wave nature of light. You have to assume that light has the particle nature, that light consists of small packets of energy or bundles of energy called as photons, having energy as E is equal to h nu. Then only you can explain this physical phenomena. So these are the two sides of a single coin. And now if you look at the physical, if you look at the properties of this wave and particle, are they related together? Is it so that this wave nature and particle nature, if you look at what are the properties associated with a wave, tell me. And what are the
Wavelength.
properties which are associated with a particle? जब भी मैं wave कहता हूँ, then what properties of wave came into your mind? कि एक wave के पास में क्या क्या होता है?
Wavelength.
Wavelength होती है. Then
Frequency.
there is some amplitude which is associated with a wave. There is some frequency which is associated with a wave. There is some energy which is associated with a wave, and so on. Isn't it?
Yes, yes,
Yes,
sir.
Now, when I use the term particle, what properties come to your mind?
Energy.
Energy. And
Velocity.
energy, velocity, then it possesses some mass, it has some momentum, it has some kinetic energy, and so on.
Velocity.
Yeah, energy, velocity, that kinetic energy, mass, momentum, and so on. So these are the physical properties which are associated with the particle. Now, if you compare the physical properties of wave and particle, is it so that they are related together? Is it so that they seem to be related together? Does a particle have a wavelength? No. Does a wave have a mass? No. Does a particle have amplitude? No. Does a wave have momentum? No. Isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Similarly, two particles, they cannot occupy same position at the same instant of time, but two or more waves, they can occupy same position at the same instant of time. That is the interference of light. So if you look at the properties of wave and particle, they seem to be such that they are not at all related together. But as I told you earlier, that there is a notion means there is a belief that our universe is mostly made up of matter and radiation. So for radiation we know something, that this radiation behaves like a wave as well as particle. So this matter which is basically having a particle nature, why this matter cannot behave like a wave, was the question which is raised by a scientist whose name was Louis de Broglie. So if you look at these properties of particle and wave together, so a particle, it occupies a very well defined position in space. That is, a particle is localized in space, for example a grain of sand or a cricket ball, etc. So they occupy a very well occupied position in space. You can easily locate where is the position of this ball is, or where is the position of this grain of a sand is. While this wave is a spread out disturbance in space. For example, on throwing a stone in a pond of water, the waves will start moving out in concentric circles. Similarly, the sound which is produced by a speaker, it reaches to everybody in the audience, and hence wave is highly a non-localized thing. You cannot locate where is the position of wave is, because they are continuously propagating in the direction of propagation. So if you throw a stone in a pond, you will observe that these waves will start moving out in concentric circles. Or if I am speaking, then I am generating the sound waves. So these sound waves are reaching up to the person by the propagation mechanism. So these waves, they need the medium, that is the elastic medium such as air, for propagation, and they propagate through air and reach out to you. So they do not have a specific location in space. So they are just the spread out disturbance. What is mean by spread out disturbance is, initially the water is still, but as soon as you drop a stone in the pond of that water, then you will see the disturbance. So the waves are produced, those are nothing but the disturbances. So when I speak, then I produce the vibrations with the help of my vocal cord. So due to that I am producing the disturbances, and therefore those disturbances are absorbed by the air particles, and therefore they get disturbed. So they will carry the signal. So in this way, a wave is just a spread out disturbance in space, while this particle is a highly localized thing. So these two properties, they seem to be such that they are not at all related together. You can easily locate the position of particle, but you cannot locate the position of a wave. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Then when a particular space is occupied by a particle, the same space cannot be occupied by the other particle, which I already explained you. So in other words, these particles, they do not interfere basically, while two or more waves, they can coexist in the same region of space, and hence they will interfere. Then a matter particle is identified by the properties such as mass, momentum, kinetic energy, spin, electric charge, etc. So these are the properties which are associated with the particle nature, while a wave is identified by the properties such as wavelength, frequency, amplitude, intensity, energy, etc. So if you just compare the properties of a particle and properties of a wave, then they seem to be such that they are not at all related together. But as I told you earlier, that this as the whole universe is made up of matter and radiation, so since radiation can behave in a dual way, it can behave like a wave as well as particle. So why not this matter, which is basically having the particle nature, why not it should behave like a wave? This was the question which is raised by a scientist whose name was Louis de Broglie. So this Louis de Broglie, there is a very interesting story about this scientist whose name was Louis de Broglie. He was basically the son of Duke of Paris. So you might be knowing Duke. Duke is like a king. So he was very rich, and he did his masters in history. So he basically did his masters in history, that is arts, and he has hardly any work to do. उसके पास कोई काम नहीं था करने के लिए, basically, because he was rich, and he gained a degree in history. But at that time, Einstein was very famous person, and Einstein was having the invitation from all over the world about his special theory of relativity, and he was roaming around the world delivering the lectures on special theory of relativity. So this de Broglie, he developed interest in physics. So later he did his masters in physics, then he did his PhD in physics, and in his PhD thesis he mentioned about this concept called as wave particle duality associated with the material particles. So according to this Louis de Broglie, as he extended the wave particle duality of light to the material particles. So he says that as in the universe, mostly our universe is made up of matter and radiation. So if radiation can behave like a wave as well as particle, so why not this material particle, they should behave like a wave, because there should be a law of symmetry in the nature, and the nature itself loves symmetry. Symmetry means, you know, that if there is a positive charge, there is a presence of a negative charge. If there is a north pole, there is a presence of south pole, and so on. So it is itself in the nature that this nature loves symmetry. And if we assume that there are only two things in the nature, one is matter, one is radiation. So if radiation can behave like a wave as well as particle, so material particles, they should also behave like a wave due to the law of symmetry. And therefore this Louis de Broglie, he extended the wave particle duality of light to the material particles, and he proposed that if a light wave can show the wave particle duality in some conditions, then the particles such as electrons, they should also act as wave at some times, and this is known as the de Broglie's hypothesis of matter waves. So according to this de Broglie's hypothesis, a moving particle always have a wave which is associated with it, and the motion of that particle is guided by the associated wave called as the matter wave, and the waves associated with the particle, they are known as the matter waves, or they are also named after him as de Broglie waves. So if a particle of mass m is moving with velocity v, the wavelength lambda of matter waves associated with the particle is inversely proportional to the momentum, and it is given by lambda is equal to h upon p. So this is the de Broglie's hypothesis of matter waves, that lambda is equal to h upon p, or lambda is equal to h upon mv. So according to de Broglie's hypothesis, if there is a particle of mass m and it is in motion with velocity v, then the de Broglie wavelength associated with the particle is given by lambda is equal to h upon mv, where this h is Planck's constant, m is mass of the particle, and v is the velocity of the particle. So mass into velocity is momentum, and therefore it is commonly written as lambda is equal to h upon p. Now just look at this equation, that is lambda is equal to h upon p or h upon mv. Now what is there on the left hand side of this equation, and what is there on the right hand side of this equation? Hello?
Relates properties of particle and wave.
Yes. On the left hand side you have the wavelength. On the right hand side this h is just a constant. While here, what is p? P is the momentum. So momentum is the property which is associated with the particle, while wavelength is the property which is associated with the wave, and therefore this equation, that is lambda is equal to h upon p or lambda is equal to h upon mv, this equation is a direct existence, or you may say that this is the connection between the wave nature and the particle nature. So on the left hand side of this equation you have the wave nature, on the right hand side of this equation you have the particle nature. So the wave nature and particle nature, they are related by this equation, and therefore this equation is very important. So he gave a very important concept in physics on this wave particle duality of the matter waves of the material particles, and according to de Broglie's hypothesis, this lambda is equal to h upon p, where h is Planck's constant and p is the momentum. So on the right hand side of this equation you have the particle nature, on the left hand side of this equation you have the wave nature. So this equation relates the wave nature and particle nature together. Now how he came to this conclusion that lambda is equal to h upon p or h upon mv, that, as I told you earlier, as he was fond of Einstein, and also at that time, since the black body radiation was explained by Planck by using the concept of photon. So according to Planck's quantum hypothesis, what is the energy associated with the photon? According to Planck's quantum hypothesis, what is the energy of the photon? The energy of the photon is E is equal to h nu. This is according to Planck's quantum hypothesis. While right now I have said that this de Broglie was fond of Einstein because Einstein was famous about his theory of relativity, and according to theory of relativity, if the material particle travels with the speed which is equal to the velocity of light, then the mass of that particle is converted into energy, or the energy can be converted into mass. So according to Einstein's mass energy relation, so according to Einstein, mass energy relation, which is a famous equation, what is the Einstein's famous mass energy relation?
Equals to mc square.
Equals to mc square.
E is equal to mc square. This is the famous equation of Einstein. E is equal to mc square. So here m is the mass of the particle and c is the velocity of light. So the particle of light, it can travel with the velocity of light, and therefore the energy of the photon, according to Einstein, it should be E is equal to mc square. So what this de Broglie has done, he simply equated these two equations. So by equating these two equations, because according to Planck's quantum hypothesis, energy of photon should be E is equal to h nu, while according to Einstein's mass energy relation, as photon is the particle of light, so it can travel with the velocity of light, and therefore the energy of the photon can be written as E is equal to mc square. So he just equated these two equations. So h nu is equal to mc square, where you know that this nu is the frequency of photon, so it can be written further as h into nu, where nu can be written as c by lambda, where c is velocity of light, because you know that velocity of light c is equal to frequency multiplied by wavelength. So nu can be written as c by lambda. So this will be h into c by lambda, and it is equal to m into c square. So that this c cancels off, and we can further write this equation in terms of lambda, as this lambda will be equal to h upon m into c. Now this h is Planck's constant, m is mass of the photon, and c is the velocity of photon, because photon is the particle of light, so it travels with the velocity of light. So in common, it can be written as lambda is equal to h upon m into c, where mass into velocity is the momentum, so lambda is equal to h upon p. So as this equation is true, this equation is true in case of light, as this equation is true in case of light. So that is why de Broglie proposed a hypothesis that since there is a symmetry in nature itself, so if there is a particle of mass m which is moving with velocity v, then it should have a momentum which is p is equal to mv, and therefore the wavelength of the de Broglie wave associated with it, it can be written as lambda is equal to h upon p or lambda is equal to h upon mv. And hence the wave which is associated with the moving particle, it is called as the matter wave, or it is called as the de Broglie wave. So this is how he proposed this fact that matter waves are associated with the particle which is in motion. Is this clear? What is mean by de Broglie's hypothesis of matter waves? This is very important.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any doubt?
No.
Okay. See, in order to explain only this concept of de Broglie's hypothesis, I have told you the entire background that that this is not part of your syllabus. This photoelectric effect is not part of your syllabus. Compton scattering is not part of your syllabus. Okay, but or the black body radiation is also not the part of your syllabus. But in order to explain this fact that there is a particle nature which is associated with the light and there is a wave nature which is associated with light, I have taken or included this in the slides just for the sake of explanation. But you should know these concepts also. A question might be asked on this, that photoelectric effect is the phenomena which is related to wave nature or particle nature. ऐसा question रह सकता है. Or can we explain the polarization of light by using the concept of photon? ऐसा भी question रह सकता है. या identify which of the following is not which cannot be explained by the wave theory of light. Option में रह सकते हैं interference, diffraction, polarization and photoelectric effect. ऐसे option भी रह सकते हैं. Okay. Hello.
Yes, yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this concept is important. Wave particle duality is important. Then how the wave and particle properties, they are not related together. This is important. Then this concept of de Broglie's hypothesis is important. How it is evolved. How he came to the conclusion of this wave particle duality in analogy with the relation that lambda is equal to h upon mc, which is true for light. So in analogy with this equation, he proposed this type of equation which could exist in case of matter waves. So this de Broglie wavelength lambda on the left hand side, while on the right hand side we have momentum. So this momentum is the particle aspect, while wavelength is the aspect of a wave.